Assalamu alaikum and welcome to lecture number 8 for the course of Corporate Social Responsibility. Today we're going to start a new chapter, which is chapter number 3. And what is the chapter number 3 called? It's basically about the stakeholders theory. I am sure that you're familiar with the name because this was one of the theories that we discussed in the second chapter with reference to the corporate governance theory, and we were talking about, we were discussing the shareholder theory with reference to the stakeholders theory. So there was basically a comparison between the shareholder theory and the stakeholders theory, and we discussed the positives and the negatives for each theory. So in this particular chapter, we're going to talk in detail about who stakeholders are, what are their definitions, what are the various groups, what are the various people, what are the various entities that we call stakeholders. And then we're going to talk about as to what is the importance of the stakeholders with reference to corporate social responsibility and also with reference to an organization. Now, what are the learning objectives of this particular chapter? We would like our students to understand the definition of stakeholders. I know that as business students, as students who have had 4 years education in business studies, you are very familiar with the word of stakeholders, but we're still going to get into the definition, and we're going to talk about or discuss or understand the definition of who stakeholders are. Then we're going to understand why the stakeholders theory is important, talk about its importance with reference to corporate social responsibility, talk about its importance with reference to the corporate governance concept as well. Then we're going to learn the taxonomy of stakeholders. We're going to talk about, or we're going to analyze stakeholders as to what are various types of stakeholders and what are what relationship do those stakeholders, individual stakeholders, have with the organization, what are the pressures that they create, and what are the interactions between the organizations and the specific individual stakeholders. Then we're going to discuss a relationship, understand that relationship under keeping in view the holistic nature, and we're going to talk about relationship which understands the holistic nature of how these shareholders, these stakeholders interact with the corporation. Growth through tangible and intangible manifestation in a corporate business, meaning that how would the organization grow, how would the corporation grow using the tangible and intangible assets, using the tangible and intangible things that the corporation has. So these are basically 5-6 learning objectives that we would be talking about in this particular chapter. Now, the very first thing that we need to understand is, before we even start talking about stakeholders, we need to understand that at ground level, resources include land, labor, capital, and their productive utilization needs a consideration of economic, social, and environmental cost. So basically, what the organization is doing, or basically what the corporation is doing, is they're using or they're utilizing the factors of production, and then using those and then manufacturing goods and services. So basically, at very basic level at the organization, at the very basic level of a corporation, resources include land, labor, and capital, and then their productive utilization needs the consideration of economic, social, and environmental costs. So basically, in order to use land, labor, and capital, and in order to productively utilize them, you need to think of the economic, social, and environmental cost. Economic cost is going to be how much expenses would the corporation need. Social cost is going to be what social impact would that product that the company is producing would have. And environmental cost would be that whenever we're extracting raw material, is it doing harm to the environment? And then again, whatever product that we're producing, is it environmentally safe or not? So this was at the ground level, or at the lowermost level. At the higher end, the resources include information, knowledge, and wisdom, which again requires judicious application. So lower end की तो हमने बात कर ली. At the higher end की अगर हम बात करते हैं, so वहाँ पर आपकी information, knowledge, and wisdom आता है. And then again, जिस तरीके से हम कहते हैं कि आपको रॉ मटेरियल को फेयरली यूज़ करना है, ऐसा रॉ मटेरियल लेना है जो गुड क्वालिटी हो, बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपेंसिव नहीं हो. Similarly, when you are creating and producing a product, you need to produce it in a way that it is made of good quality. You need to not compromise quality in any way. And then furthermore, you need to have it priced in a way that it is it is affordable for the people to buy it. Similarly, अगर हम इन सब resources में हम just और right की बात करते हैं, तो जो ये आपकी higher end resources हैं, which include information, knowledge and wisdom, you need to also expend with them judicially, because आपको उनको सही तरीके से use करना है. And you also need to understand कि अगर wisdom, knowledge और information को की सही usage ना हो, then what can happen? A very small example is people who hack websites or people who are hackers. Now what do they have? They do have, there may be geniuses because what they're doing, everybody cannot do it, right? लेकिन उनकी जो वे है कि जिस तरीके से वो अपनी इंफॉर्मेशन को, अपने नॉलेज को, अपने विजडम को यूज कर रहे हैं, उसकी जुडिशियस एप्लीकेशन नहीं हो रही, बिकॉज व्हाट दे डूइंग इज दे डूइंग समथिंग इलीगल, दे डूइंग समथिंग व्हिच इज नॉट राइट, दे डूइंग समथिंग व्हिच इज नॉट एथिकल. सो बेसिकली जब आप हायर एंड रिसोर्सेज की बात करते हैं, व्हिच इज इंफॉर्मेशन, नॉलेज एंड विजडम, दैट अगेन रिक्वायर्स जुडिशियस एप्लीकेशन. Effective and efficient utilization of these resources is the focus of every business. So what basically I mean here is that it's not only about the land, labor, capital, it's also about the 4 factor of production, जिसको आप entrepreneurship भी कहते हैं. आपने इन चारों factors of production को इस तरीके से utilize करना है so that they are used effectively and efficiently, so that the organization can move forward, so that the organization can grow, so that the organization can get the profits or get the objectives that they've set for themselves. So that is basically the purpose of any organization. Use their factor of productions in such a way that it becomes efficient and effective, and the organization can move forward. Again, as I said, effective and efficient utilization is the focus of all organizations. That is what the organizations strive for. That is what the organizations want. अगर कहीं पर कोई कमी रह जाती है in efficient and effective utilizations of these resources, तो problem सिर्फ और सिर्फ corporation को ही होती है. Now, what the organizations need to do is they need to find a best method for value-added utilization of these resources. These resources can be utilized in a number of ways. Raw material हो गया, land हो गया, capital हो गया, wisdom हो गया, information होगी, knowledge हो गई. आप इसको multiple तरीकों से utilize कर सकते हैं. वो जो multiple तरीके हैं, they can be good, they can be not that good as well. But what you need to do is, what organizations need to do is, what corporations need to do is, they need to find the best method for value-added utilization of these resources. They need to find a way that that the utilization of these resources becomes or the utilization of these resources is done in such a manner कि आपकी value addition हो throughout the process, from the point that you're utilizing the raw material to the point that you're delivering the product to the society. इस पूरे प्रोसेस में आपकी रिसोर्स यूटिलाइजेशन ऐसी होनी चाहिए कि वो इस प्रोसेस में वैल्यू एडिशन ऐड करे. Now, interaction, whenever this process is going on, this utilization of resources and you creating products and services and goods and services for your society, the corporation is interacting with a number of entities, and that number of entities is basically called the stakeholders. आपके जो सप्लायर्स हैं वो स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं. सप्लायर्स आपको क्या कहते हैं? रॉ मटेरियल देते हैं. आपके एम्प्लॉयज हैं वो स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं. एम्प्लॉयज से आपकी क्या इंटरेक्शन होती है? बिकॉज दे आर बेसिकली द ह्यूमन एस्पेक्ट ऑफ द कंपनी. आपके कस्टमर्स हैं वो आपके स्टेक होल्डर्स हैं. उनसे आपको क्या बेनिफिट होता है? बिकॉज दे आर द वंस हु बेसिकली बाइंग द प्रोडक्ट दैट यू आर प्रोड्यूसिंग. इफ दे स्टॉप बाइंग योर प्रोडक्ट, देन व्हाट विल हैपन टू यू? फिर तो आप कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते, राइट? सो बेसिकली दैट इज वाई कि आप विद रेफरेंस टू द यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ दीज रिसोर्सेज आप कंटिन्यूसली अपने मल्टीपल एंटिटीज जिनको स्टेक होल्डर्स कहते हैं उनके साथ इंटरैक्ट कर रहे होते हैं. जस्ट थिंक फॉर अ सेकेंड कि अगर आप जो है आपकी कंपनी में लेट्स से एम्प्लॉयज ना हो, विल योर कंपनी कॉर्पोरेशन बी एबल टू वर्क? No, it cannot. So that's just a small example that I'm giving to you, which just shows the importance of stakeholders. And then again, it's not necessary that every stakeholder is going to have the same kind of importance. Employees are very important because if they will not work, then आपकी company नहीं चलेगी. Customers are extremely important because अगर customers आपकी product नहीं खरीदेंगे तो there's going to be no revenue and there's going to be no profits for your company. So the relationship with these stakeholders has to be analyzed from different angles and from different levels. And what are those 3 different levels? The relationship has to be analyzed from the economic level, from the moral level, and from the value aspect as well. Economic level is what is each of these stakeholders getting in terms of in economic terms, monetary terms में हर stakeholder को क्या मिल रहा है, supplier आपको किस price में चीज़ देता है और आप supplier को कितने पैसे देते हैं. So that's basically the economic level. And then again जब आप economic level की बात करते हो तो जैसा supplier और corporation का relationship है वो तो बहुत ज़्यादा important relationship होगा. Why? Because if the supplier is not supplying you with raw material, then what is going to happen is that your company is never going to work. आपकी कंपनी चल ही नहीं सकती रॉ मटेरियल के बगैर. हाँ, ये हो सकता है then the company would have to find another supplier that's going to take time, effort and money, और वो ज़्यादा लंबा process हो जाता है. So in short what happens is अगर suppliers को equation से बाहर निकाल दें then your company cannot work. On the other hand, if the corporation or the company is not giving business to the supplier, then what will happen to the supplier? The supplier का business भी बंद हो जाएगा. So that is the type of interaction that we're talking about. That is the type of relationships that we are talking about. That the supplier or for that matter any stakeholder, when they're interacting with the corporation, आप multiple levels पर interact करते हैं. Economic level की हमने आपको example दे दी. If the supplier is not giving raw material to the corporation, the corporation's business is going to go bust. If the corporation is not buying from the supplier or is not giving contracts to the supplier or is not giving business to the supplier's business is going to go bust. So that's the economic level of relationship between stakeholders and the corporation. The moral level is basically that whatever, with respect to the relationships between stakeholders and corporation, it has to be an ethical relationship. It has to be a just relationship. Things have to be right. For example, अगर जो अभी हमने suppliers और corporation की आपको example दी, if the suppliers are not supplying good quality raw material to the corporation, then that is a moral level irresponsibility. कि supplier अपना काम morally नहीं कर रहा. Similarly, अगर आपका जो corporation है वो पेमेंट सही नहीं कर रही है या पेमेंट्स में हेरा फेरी कर रही है या they're not properly giving the payments to the supplier, that again is the moral level of irresponsibility with respect to the corporation. So whatever transactions that you have, you're always going to have that moral level of relationship में moral level आएगा. The third type of level is your value level, जो कि relationship में. The value हम basically बात कर चुके. Value is basically the beliefs that people have. जो कि beliefs ऐसी होती हैं जो basis बनती हैं for so many other activities. And again, आप क्या चीज़ सही समझते हैं, क्या चीज़ नहीं समझते हैं सही, आपके actions उस पर depend करेंगे. And here you need to keep in mind that this particular level or morality is going to have a direct impact on value as well. कि जी आप क्या सही समझते हैं और उसके बेसिस पर आप अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन की क्या वैल्यू सिस्टम बनाते हैं. सो इफ योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैज अ वैल्यू कि जी प्रोडक्ट रिसीव कर ली, आपने रॉ मटेरियल रिसीव कर लिया, बट पेमेंट्स विल बी मेड व्हेनेवर यू वांट टू एंड यू रियली वांट द सप्लायर टू क्राई एंड से कि यार किधर गई हमारी पेमेंट, व्हाट विल हैपन इज कि आप दैट मीन्स आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन काम ही ऐसे कर रही है, आपका वैल्यू सिस्टम ही ऐसे है. एंड देन अगेन आपका वैल्यू सिस्टम इज गोइंग टू हैव एन इम्पैक्ट पॉजिटिव or negative on any relationship that corporation has with stakeholders. Now with respect to these three different levels, I've just given you an example of the relationship between the suppliers and the corporation. The same levels are going to exist when this relationship is between corporation and the employee. The same three levels of relationship will exist when the corporation is going to interact with customers. So irrespective who the stakeholder is, irrespective of if the stakeholder is internal to the company or external to the company, the relationship between the corporation and the stakeholders will always be analyzed with respect to morals, with respect to values, and with respect to the economics of that relationship. Now, it's very easy for people to say कि जी we should behave ethically. For example, अगर हमें और आप अपनी examples दें, जी झूठ नहीं बोलना चाहिए. That's the ethical thing to do. But then, क्या हम झूठ नहीं बोलते? Can you seriously say, sitting there, कि have you never lied in your life? If your answer is yes, you're a saint because that's exactly what you are. But if your answer is no, I am not going to blame you because I've lied in my life. And अब क्वेश्चन ये आया, आप मुझसे पूछें क्यों आपने झूठ क्यों बोला, आई कैन गिव यू 1010 रीजंस. सिचुएशन ऐसे थी, प्रॉब्लम ऐसे था, किसी और ने मुझे कहा, उसका प्रेशर पड़ा, एंड दैट इज एग्जैक्टली व्हाट हैपेंस टू ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस एज वेल. एथिकल कॉन्डक्ट अगर हम डिस्कस कर रहे हैं या बात कर रहे हैं या उसके बारे में लेक्चर दे रहे हैं, then it becomes very easy for each one of us to say, gee, we're supposed to act ethically. But then there are certain obstacles to ethical conduct as well. Now, what are those obstacles? Those obstacles could be individuals, those obstacles could be groups, and those obstacles could be society as well in general. For example, जब हमने institutional investors की बात की थी last chapter में, that particular group can exert pressure on the board to act unethically. So that's going to be a group pressure exerted. Similarly, sometimes the society expects certain things which one has to do, and because you're doing it, you know what you're doing is wrong, but since the society expects it, that's why you're doing it. Similarly, आपके individual pressures भी बहुत ज़्यादा आते हैं, which sort of prompts a person to behave unethically. अब unethical की लिमिट क्या होगी, क्या वो छोटा अनएथिकल होगा या बड़ा अनएथिकल होगा, that's not our discussion. The point that we're trying to make here is that it's very easy to just say that you're supposed to be ethical, but then there are certain obstacles, certain pressures that are exerted by individuals, by groups, and by societies in general, which results or which sort of prompts a person or which pressurizes a person to behave unethically. Now, the need is for coexistence of two parties that is mutually beneficial. Now, with reference to our discussion, the one that we're having right now, with reference to the relationship between the stakeholders and the corporation, the need is, the ultimate need is, the need of the hour is that there has to be coexistence between the stakeholders and the corporation, because irrespective कि आपका stakeholder internal to the company हो या external to the company हो, अगर आप coexist नहीं कर सकते, the corporation and the stakeholder, if they cannot coexist, it's going to be a lose-lose situation for both the parties. Just for an example, let's say that the employees and the corporation are having trouble, and they cannot find a solution. It's going to be a lose-lose situation, because the end result is going to be that the corporation is going to fire the employees, and the employee is not going to have a job anymore. So there's going to be no job security, there's going to be no salary. On the other hand, with respect to the corporation is going to lose so many employees that they're going to have a very hard time finding that number of employees on a very short notice. Result क्या होगा? Productivity suffer करेगी and profitability suffer करेगी. So इस particular lose-lose situation से बचने के लिए, the ideal thing is that you need to have a coexistence between two parties that is mutually beneficial. And who are those two parties? Those two parties are basically your stakeholders and your corporation. Now let's just go back in history कि जब हम कहते हैं कि जी coexistence की क्यों ज़रूरत है, या corporation को अपने stakeholders का ख्याल रखना ज़रूरी है, या corporations को सिर्फ economic level पर नहीं but moral and value level पर भी अपने stakeholders के साथ relationship maintain करना है. Why are we thinking that way? What's the background? What's the history towards? What's the history which has contributed to this particular thinking? Now, if we talk about economics and then we go back in history, Middle Ages and let's say 2-3 centuries back, economics has always been rooted in local communities. आप barter system की बात कर लीजिए, whereby you were trading goods for goods, 2 camels for let's say 6 cows. Even when things were that simple, and then when there was barter system, even in that case economics exist करती थी. And then economics is obviously जो आप trade करें, जो आप exchange करें, that's very much part of economics. But even then, when there was barter system, and we're talking 2-3 centuries ago, there was a high sense of morality. People had very high moral standards. People had very high ethical standards. They knew what was right, they knew what was wrong, they knew how to stand up for what was right. अगर कोई चीज़ गलत हो रही होगी, they would say कि नहीं जी ये गलत हो रही है. Now please ये चीज़ ध्यान में रखिएगा कि आपके पास, I'm not saying everybody was good, हाँ शायद exceptions हो, कुछ लोग हों जो कि सही सोच ना रखते हैं, but then they would be in minority. Anyways, even at that time there was a high sense of morality. Later on जब आप American culture की बात करते हैं या frontier of America की बात करते हैं, and you're talking Red Indians and you're talking outback and everything, the frontier cultures of America, home to modern management, also glorified harmonious existence. So आपका जो जब आप movies देखते हैं cowboys वगैरह की, उसमें भी what was right, what was ethical, stealing was not right, not taking care of people around you was not right, lying was not right, taking things, poaching was not right. So they also had very high moral standards, and then they also glorified harmonious existence. The purpose was to live together. The purpose was that there's always good comes out with numbers. अगर आप अकेले होंगे तो आपको ज़्यादा मसले होंगे as compared to अगर आप साथ होंगे, harmony में एक दूसरे के साथ रहेंगे, तो chances are that you're going to have a better life. इसके बाद आया Industrial Revolution. Industrial Revolution, we all know what that was. And with Industrial Revolution, जब आपकी factory system came into being, वहाँ पर people started to have or people started to feel the needs for rules and regulations. That was the first time जब excessive rules and regulations की आपकी बात हुई. Everything was regulated by a system. Everything was regulated by rules. इतने बजे ये करना है, इतने बजे ये करना है, इतने बजे ये करना है. Step 1 ये है, Step 2 3 है, Step 3 ये है, Step 4 ये है. So with the Industrial Revolution, people felt that there was a need for rules, for regulations, for guidelines. Now, social scientists like Max Weber and Frederick W. Taylor endorsed the rule-driven hierarchies, scalar chain, and quantification of results. And in the same continuity of the Industrial Revolution and scientific management, आपके जो social scientists हैं, they further sort of stamped approval on things like rule-driven hierarchy, that there should be hierarchies in the organization which should be driven by rules, and quantification. Focus was on numbers. Focus was on how much you would produce, how many units you would produce, how much profit did you have, how much money did you make. And so the focus basically was कि जी आप numbers, money और units की बात करते हैं. Now this particular sense or this particular way of thinking resulted in high standards of efficiency and effectiveness, but demise of human spirit. Because let's just imagine कि एक factory है, and we're talking quite a few years back, but rather hundreds of years back. फैक्ट्री है, वर्कर्स हैं, और आप वर्कर्स को सिर्फ रूल्स रेगुलेशन से प्रेशराइज कर रहे हैं. देयर इज नो फ्रीडम ऑफ थॉट, देयर इज नो ऑटोनॉमी, देयर इज नो एम्पावरमेंट, देयर इज नो अकाउंटेबिलिटी. देयर इज अकाउंटेबिलिटी बट विद रेफरेंस टू व्हाट हैव यू प्रोड्यूस्ड एंड हाउ मच हैव यू प्रोड्यूस्ड. एंड कोई आप पावर्स लोगों को डेलीगेट नहीं करे. डेलीगेशन का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है, डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन का कॉन्सेप्ट नहीं है. द ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस आर कंप्लीटली सेंट्रलाइज्ड एंड ऑटोक्रेटिक. उस केस में आप क्या एक्सपेक्ट करते हैं? हाँ, आप जब इतने हंटर मारेंगे बंदे को, बंदे की तो प्रोडक्टिविटी और एफिशिएंसी तो शायद ज़्यादा बढ़ जाए. Maybe you will be producing 100 units a day, but you're not thinking about how the person is feeling. You're not thinking about if the person is happy on the job or unhappy on the job. So basically, जो ये social scientist का काम था, that did result in better output, that did result in more productivity, that did result in more profitability, but that also resulted in the death of human spirit. Individuals as you and me, as people who are not robots, people who are not automated, खत्म हो गए. इंसानों को उन्होंने robots बना दिया. They just thought that people are robots without feeling. You give them money, they're going to work, and you give them average working conditions, they're going to work. The purpose of a person is to come to the factory and produce and nothing else. उनकी feelings, उनके emotions, उनकी likes, उनकी dislikes, उनका anger, इन सब चीज़ों को नहीं देखा गया. Now, when that happened, then the free human spirit was in search for security. Security, आप emotionally आप insecure हो गए, because आपको पैसे तो मिल रहे थे, लेकिन emotionally आप completely आपको पता नहीं था कि आपके साथ क्या हो रहा है. क्यों? Because if you were good, you would have the job, you would have the money, but maybe if you were tense about something because your child at home was not well, और आपकी productivity नहीं हुई, तो फिर आपको नौकरी से निकाल दिया गया. So basically, आप emotionally insecure थे. You just didn't know what was happening to you at that particular time. Now, जब ये insecurity लोगों के ज़हनों में आई, then people submitted to the dominance of entrepreneur, because now there is psychology is involved. जब बंदा insecure होता है, when you're insecure about a particular thing, then what you do as an individual is you start seeking a shelter, because insecurity आपकी तभी खत्म होगी जब आपको shelter मिलेगा. अब shelter आपको कोई भी ऐसी चीज हो सकती है. We're not talking a house, we're talking an individual, an entity or a group जो कि इतना powerful हो कि आपको ऊपर हाथ रख ले तो आप कहो यार now I'm good, now I'm not insecure, मुझे किसी चीज से डर नहीं लगता. So when after the industrial revolution and these productivity and efficiency and effectiveness की जब बहुत ज़्यादा बात होने लगी और money motivation की बहुत ज़्यादा बात होने लगी, तो जब individual human beings became insecure, then in order to get rid of that insecurity, what they did was they submitted to the dominance of entrepreneurs. Because जब आप entrepreneurs की बात करते हैं, we're talking businessmen, we're talking big businesses, we're talking large number of resources which are at their disposal, we're talking powerful men who can use their power, we're talking ऐसे बंदे जिनके पास who have hundreds of people working for them, who have lots of money, who have lots of resources. Now एक ऐसे बंदे के साथ आप फौरन अटैच होना चाहेंगे, स्पेशली एक ऐसा बंदा अटैच होना चाहेगा जो कि अपने बारे में इनसिक्योर है. और वो ऐसे बंदे के साथ क्यों अटैच होना चाहेगा? जस्ट बिकॉज ताकि द सेम फीलिंग ऑफ सिक्योरिटी दैट पर्सन हैज, दैट कैन बी ट्रांसमिटेड टू दिस इनसिक्योर पर्सन. So that's why when the human spirit was low on security, then the people submitted to the dominance of entrepreneurs. Now, at this point in time, superficial justice and equality was offered by creating stockholders relationship. Now, जब entrepreneurs के साथ attachment हो गई, people started attaching themselves with the entrepreneurs, or society started, or human beings of society started attaching themselves with dominant entrepreneurs, and what was happening was, whatever the entrepreneur was doing, you thought it was right. One. Second is, even if you did not think that what entrepreneur was doing was right, you were not confident enough to say कि भाई आप सही नहीं कर रहे. What you're doing is harming the society. Stop doing it. आप तो उस बंदे के साथ attached थे, आप तो उस बंदे पर dependent थे, आप उसको कैसे मना कर सकते हैं कि नहीं जी आप जो कर रहे हैं वो गलत है. So the relationship was once, वो एक साइड पर tilted था. Entrepreneurs and businessmen की साइड पर ज्यादा था और individuals और society की साइड पर कम था. So there was no balance in this relationship, right? Now, in order to create balance, कि जी आपका जो entrepreneur है और आपका जो society और individuals और human beings है, इनका relationship balance out हो जाए, superficial justice and equality was offered by creating stockholders relationship. फिर आपने स्टॉक होल्डर्स की बात कर ली. एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को पैसा चाहिए था, कैपिटल चाहिए था, उन्होंने अपनी ओनरशिप को डाइल्यूट किया, स्टॉक होल्डर्स को लिया. सेइंग कि जी जब स्टॉक होल्डर्स आ जाएंगे तो हमारे पास एब्सोल्यूट पावर नहीं रहेगी, बिकॉज एब्सोल्यूट पावर तभी आती है जब एक बंदे के पास पावर होगी. वन पर्सन हैज एब्सोल्यूट पावर, बट व्हेन देयर आर मोर देन वन पीपल इन्वॉल्व्ड, देन ऑटोमेटिकली द पावर डिस्ट्रीब्यूट्स अमंग दोज मेनी पीपल एंड ऑल्सो डाइल्यूट्स, बिकॉज जब भी आप पावर को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करेंगे अमंग पीपल, द पावर इज नॉट गोइंग टू be as strong as it used to be when it was with one person. Whenever you're distributing power among people, it automatically dilutes. Now, जैसे मैंने पहले भी आपको बताया कि the relationship between the entrepreneurs and the society was one-sided. इस one-sided relationship को balance करने के लिए उन्होंने stockholders relationships की बात की. लेकिन जब आप stockholders relationship की बात करते हैं, उसमें भी आपका superficial justice और equality था. Superficial मतलब it was just to show people कि जी we're talking equal and we're talking just. Reality में क्या था? It was not that. Because stockholders again were only thinking, जो हम पहले भी बात कर चुके हैं, stockholders again were only thinking of making profits. That's it. Profitability, money, monetary terms, what they're going to get out of the business. इस केस में भी जब भी इक्वालिटी, जस्ट, राइट की बात होती थी, वो सिर्फ बातें करने तक होती थी, वो सिर्फ सुपरफिशियली होती थी, बट देयर वाज नो सब्सटेंस टू दैट टॉक. द रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन द एम्प्लॉय एंड द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो होता है, जब भी आपका एम्प्लॉय और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का होता है, दैट इज बेसिकली बेस्ड इन लॉयल्टी इन रिटर्न फॉर एम्प्लॉयमेंट. मतलब कि जब आप कहते हैं कि जी हमने किसी को एम्प्लॉय किया, so why are you employing that person? You want that person to work, obviously, but then you also, when I say you, I mean the corporation is also demanding loyalty from the employee. Acha, employee has to be loyal, there's no question about it, and in return for loyalty, the corporation is basically giving the employee salary, is giving the employee benefits, is giving the employees incentives, is giving the employee compensation. So what you're doing is कि loyalty in return for all these things, loyalty in return for these monetary incentives that we've just talked about. So basically आपका जो relationship था, again अगर आप इसको एक analyze करें या critically देखें, then you're going to see कि ये तो relationship सही नहीं है, because what you're doing is कि आपने एक freedom नहीं दिया individual को, आप उससे loyalty इसलिए मांग रहे हैं because आप उसको पैसा दे रहे हैं. So there's a exchange trade going on between the employer and the employee. Now I'm not saying that exchange relationship between the employer and the employee is not right, but I'm saying कि जब इस relationship, ये relationship generally जब out of balance हो जाता है, तो फिर again आप अपने morals and values को ख़त्म कर देते हैं, and you're just thinking about this relationship with through the aspect of the economic level. आप सिर्फ economically ही इस relationship को देख सकते हैं. Moral and values के लिए हमको एक step आगे जाना है. और जो हमने पिछले lecture में बात की थी that the leaders should think about the leaders, the work should motivate the leaders and not the perks and the pay. That is what is applicable here as well. कि जब आप employer-employee relationship की बात करते हैं, it should be the work that should motivate the employee. It should be the substantial, challenging nature of the work which should motivate the employee to give his best, instead of the pay, instead of the perks, instead of the incentives and instead of the benefits. लेकिन reality की जब आप बात करें तो होता क्या है कि जी the relationship between the employee and the organization is basically loyalty in return for employment. Now इस point in time पर, इससे पहले तक, what is happening from this point to maybe this point is that all that you're doing is कि आप सिर्फ जो stakeholder और employer relationship है, stakeholder और corporation relationship है, वो economic level पर है, वो economic terms में है, वो सिर्फ monetary terms में है. You're talking about rules, you're talking about regulations, you're talking about guidelines, you're talking about codes, so that the corporation can keep the employee in line, and so that the employee is being efficient, effective, so that the employee can produce more. Similarly, जब ये सब कुछ हुआ तो आपकी human spirit low हो गई, human spirit down हुई तो automatically लोग insecure हुए. When people became insecure, they wanted to attach themselves to these big entrepreneurs, and then again those entrepreneurs, instead of taking care of those people justly and ethically, they took advantage of those people and they offered them jobs in return for loyalty. They offered them wages and salaries and incentives and benefits in return for loyalty. Now, this lack of human sensitivity resulted in Maslow need hierarchy and two-factor Herzberg theory and concepts of empowerment and autonomy. So what is happening now is that जब हमने बात की ना कि जो entrepreneurs again took advantage of people, superficially उन्होंने stockholders relationship की बात की, but अंदर से all that they were concerned about was profit making, or they were concerned about productivity only. They were not concerned about what their people, what the employees were thinking. They were not concerned about कि employee feel कैसा करता है. They were not concerned about कि they did not think कि पैसे के अलावा there was any other thing which would motivate an employee. And then again इतने मसले मसाइल with reference to employer-employee relationship in इस particular thought process की वजह से originate हुए that this lack of human sensitivity resulted in more people to think अच्छा, if it is not money which motivates people, then what is it that motivates people? And people came up, or Maslow came up, Abraham Maslow came up with Maslow need hierarchy, and Frederick Herzberg came up with the two-factor theory, saying कि जी पैसा के अलावा बहुत सारी और चीज़ें हैं जो कि इंडिविजुअल को मोटिवेट करती हैं. एंड एट दिस लेवल मे बी आई वुड रियली थिंक कि जो आपका एक्सपेरिमेंट था whereby the Illumination Experiment जो कि आपका किया गया था जिसमें हॉथॉर्न का, जहाँ पर people were asked to stay in a room and the lights were dimmed, and interestingly the productivity of that group of people which was working in a room with almost no light did not reduce, because people thought that they were being paid extra attention. People thought that they were being paid extra, उनको ज़्यादा attention मिल रही थी, लोग उनको देख रहे थे, as a result of which the physical condition of the room did not affect their productivity. So that basically shows that it was not really about the money and the physical conditions only. It was about how much attention do you pay to your worker. You want your worker to work more, you want your worker to work under extreme conditions, you want your worker to work under conditions which just might not be right for working. You have to give your worker some attention. You have to involve your worker. You have to pat him or her on the back and say, yeah, very good job done. I don't know what I would have done without you. So money is not the only thing which motivates a person, and Maslow exactly said that. So Maslow ने जब अपनी need hierarchy ली, जो कि physiological से शुरू होती है और self actualization पर ख़त्म होती है, उसमें salary या जो monetary term की आप बात करते हैं, that only covers your physiological needs, shelter, clothes and food. बाकी जो आपकी सिक्योरिटी नीड है और आपकी सोशल नीड्स है और आपकी सेल्फ स्टीम नीड्स है या आपकी सेल्फ एक्चुअलाइजेशन नीड्स है, दे आर नॉट कवर्ड बाय मनी एट ऑल. सो पीपल स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग के द वर्कर्स और द एम्प्लॉयज will be motivated by things other than the money. Money is not the only thing as proposed by so many people before Maslow and Hertzberg. And similarly, your two-factor theory said the same thing, that there are hygiene factors and then there are motivation factors. And hygiene factors जो हैं वो शायद salary से या monetary term से cover हो जाएं. But then when you provide your employees with hygiene factors only, then your employee is not motivated. Your employees may be not dissatisfied, but your employee is certainly not satisfied. And to satisfy an employee and to motivate an employee, you need to give that person the motivational factors. And then all your motivational factors are not related to money. Autonomy ho gaya, empowerment ho gaya, decision making ho gaya, this is not relevant to money. This is not related to money. So, aapka jo sensitivity thi with the theories provided by Maslow and Hertzberg, आपकी ह्यूमन सेंसिटिविटी का कॉन्सेप्ट दोबारा आ गया. पीपल स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग अगेन कि जी there's something else other than money which motivates people, and if you want your organization to work effectively and efficiently, you need to have a motivated workforce. Now, post-war development and political movements gave importance to individuals. So, Maslow के साथ, Hertzberg की theories के साथ, आपका जो World War II के बाद जो developments हुई, आपकी जो political movements हुई, they again started giving importance to people, because इन दोनों incidents से पहले ये जो Maslow और Hertzberg या post-war जो हुई, इससे पहले the important thing in a corporation were not people. The important thing in the corporation were not employees. The important thing in the corporation were rules, regulations, numbers, quantification, कितने numbers produce कर लिए, कितना profit हो गया, and productivity, efficient काम, effective काम. That was what was important. And the human aspect was right there at the back of the line, because the humans were not important, and people thought that they were robots. People thought that they did not have a mind. People thought that they did not have emotions. However, with the political movements and with the post-war and in the post-war era, Abraham Maslow and Frederick Hertzberg, आपका focus again individuals and humans पर आ गया. And you started thinking कि जी सिर्फ पैसा नहीं, we need to work with people, you need to work with humans so that आपकी corporation में चीज़ें बेहतर हों. The individualism led to the concept of free markets. Now again, दो aspects हैं इसके. जब आपने individual के बारे में सोचा, that led to individualism. Again, individualism is again thinking about what you want individually. So it's all about your self-interest only. So that was the extreme end. When people started talking about people, when they started talking about people's interest and humans' interest, फिर लोगों ने सोचा अच्छा मैं भी important हूँ, workers ने सोचा अच्छा हम भी important हैं, और जब लोगों ने अपने बारे में सोचना शुरू किया, that led to the concept of individualism. Now, individualism led to the concept of free markets. Economic activity should not be judged on moral grounds, and this culture led to burnout and resource exploitation. Now, free markets की हम पहले बात कर चुके हैं. Free markets is free entry, free exit, and equal sharing of information, right? That's the general description of a free market. Now, free market would also mean lots of competition, people having equal amount of information, whoever wants to produce whatever can come up and can charge prices as and when they want it. And again, आप इंडिविजुअल गेन्स के बारे में सोचना शुरू हो गए। सिंस इंडिविजुअलिज्म को तो आप प्रमोट कर रहे थे, इंडिविजुअलिज्म को प्रमोट करते करते आप इतना आगे निकल गए कि पीपल देन अगेन स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग ऑफ इंडिविजुअल गेन्स एंड इंडिविजुअल प्रॉफिट्स एंड इंडिविजुअल कि जी एज एन इंडिविजुअली मैंने क्या अचीव किया। नाउ when that started happening, then people started saying कि जी इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी को मॉरल ग्राउंड्स में जज नहीं करना चाहिए। आप पर्सनल एक्टिविटी को मॉरल ग्राउंड्स पर जज कीजिए, लेकिन जो इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी है, जो इनपुट को हम प्रोसेस में डालकर आउटपुट में कन्वर्ट करते हैं, इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी शुड नॉट बी जज्ड ऑन मॉरल ग्राउंड्स। And this particular thought led to the burnout and resource exploitation, because फिर आपकी resource exploitation आ गई, and then again the market lost its stability. So that just tells you the entire cycle of how things have progressed till now. शुरू में, बिल्कुल शुरू में there was economic stability. आप harmonious existence पर believe करते थे, आप moral values पर believe करते थे, और आप morally right करने पर believe करते थे। इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आया, इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन के साथ आपने रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस की बात की, आपने इफेक्टिवनेस और एफिशिएंसी की बात की, आपका फोकस प्रोडक्टिविटी पर गया, आपने ह्यूमन एस्पेक्ट को खत्म किया, आपने स्पेशलाइजेशन की बात की, आपने कहा कि नहीं जी अब कोई हार्मनी नहीं है बिकॉज इट इज सर्वाइवल ऑफ द फिटेस्ट। सो आप सिर्फ रूल्स रेगुलेशन पर करते करते आपने इंडिविजुअल को, सोसाइटी को अनस्टेबल कर दिया। जब सोसाइटी अनस्टेबल हुई तो सोसाइटी या इंडिविजुअल्स इनसिक्योर हुए। जब इनसिक्योर हुए तो दे वांटेड टू सॉर्ट ऑफ अटैच देमसेल्फ टू अ वेरी पावरफुल एंटिटी, सो दैट जब वो किसी पावरफुल बंदे के साथ अटैच हो जाएंगे तो उनमें सिक्योरिटी आ जाएगी। Another example to explain this particular point is कि अटैचमेंट के साथ सिक्योरिटी कैसे आती है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल you see this culture prevailing in Pakistan a lot. ट्रैफिक लाइट पर आपने ट्रैफिक लाइट तोड़ी, आपको ट्रैफिक वार्डन ने आपको रोका, एंड यू pull down your window and say जी फलाना इंस्पेक्टर एंड फलाना politician is my father or is my father's friend, so you can't, आप मेरा चलान नहीं कर सकते। So what you're doing in that situation is you become a little insecure because आपको जब ट्रैफिक वार्डन ने रोका, you're insecure कि शायद मेरा चलान हो जाए। उस चलान से बचने के लिए what you're doing is you're attaching yourself to a very powerful person, because जब आप उस powerful person के साथ attach हो जाएंगे तो आपकी insecurity खत्म हो जाएगी, and the chances are कि ट्रैफिक वार्डन आपको टिकट ना दे। So that is again how the psychology of human beings worked then as well. When they became insecure, they looked around and they saw कि who's the most powerful person? गवर्नमेंट के साथ तो अटैच होना आसान काम नहीं है। फिर नेक्स्ट पावरफुल एंटिटी कौन है? कॉर्पोरेशन, बिजनेसमैन, एंटरप्रेन्योर्स। लेट्स अटैच आवरसेल्व्स टू देम सो दैट हम उनकी पावर में या उनकी अम्ब्रेला में आकर हम सिक्योर हो जाएंगे। चलो जी, उनको सिक्योरिटी आ गई। जब अटैचमेंट हो गई देन, और बहुत सारी एंटिटीज, कॉर्पोरेशंस बड़ी होना शुरू हो गई, चीजें फैलना शुरू हो गई, देन पीपल स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग एंड क्वेश्चनिंग कि भाई इनके पास तो बहुत सारी पावर है, इस पावर को आप कैसे जस्टिफाई करेंगे? देन द ओनर्स थॉट एंड द कॉर्पोरेशंस थॉट ओके लेट्स टॉक अबाउट स्टॉक होल्डर्स रिलेशनशिप। स्टॉक होल्डर्स रिलेशनशिप क्या हुआ? स्टॉक होल्डर्स रिलेशनशिप ये हुआ कि जी स्टॉक होल्डर्स के साथ कैसा होगा, क्या करना चाहिए। बट the intelligent thing that they did was that they did not talk about stakeholders, they talked about stockholders, because stockholders और entrepreneurs का objective same होगा। stockholders को भी profit चाहिए, owners को भी profit चाहिए, stockholders को भी high return on investment चाहिए, entrepreneur को भी high return on investment चाहिए। so उन्होंने सिर्फ आपको एक face off दिया, एक sort of सामने एक film चला दी कि जी everything is fine, everything is good, but back end पर काम वो ही चल रहा था, उसी किस्म की एक्टिविटीज होनी थी which would have resulted in unethical practices, which would have resulted in only focus on productivity and profitability. जब हालात फिर से इतने खराब हो गए, फिर people started thinking कि नहीं भाई, we need to focus on people's sensitivities, and Maslow and Hertzberg came up with need hierarchies and two-factor theory and empowerment का concept और autonomy के concept आया। फिर पोस्ट वॉर हुई, वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 के बाद इतना नुकसान, इतना एक्सपेंसेस हुए, यू लॉस्ट सो मेनी पीपल दैट पीपल स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग कि यार इट इज द इंडिविजुअल व्हिच इज इंपॉर्टेंट, व्हाट कैन यू डू विद मनी? आज इतना पैसा एक्यूमुलेट किया, टुमारो यू गो ऑफ, यू डाई, the money is all going to be here, so we need to again focus on individuals. Now जब आपकी individual पर focus दोबारा से शुरू हुआ तो चलो that was good, that was right, लेकिन जब आप उसके एक्सट्रीम पर चले गए तो आप इंडिविजुअलिज्म की बात करना करना शुरू हो गया। इंडिविजुअलिज्म जब आया, देन अगेन एक नेगेटिव थॉट जहन में आई, वेयर यू स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग अबाउट योर सेल्फ ओनली and you started ignoring the people and the communities and the groups around you. Now when that started happening, then again जब आपने अपने बारे में सोचना शुरू हो गया, then automatically means again corporations ने भी अपने बारे में सोचना शुरू कर दिया, because corporations are made out of people. Corporation खुद तो नहीं बन जाती ना, corporation में भी वही लोग होते हैं जो कि सोसाइटी में बैठे होते हैं, जो कि सोसाइटी से आते हैं. So when सोसाइटी में इंडिविजुअलिज्म प्रिवेल किया, तो फिर कॉर्पोरेशंस में भी इंडिविजुअलिज्म प्रिवेल किया. कॉर्पोरेशंस आल्सो स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग अबाउट देमसेल्व्स ओनली, दे स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग अबाउट प्रोडक्टिविटी अगेन, दे स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग अबाउट ओनली प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी अगेन. एंड देन व्हेन दैट हैपेंड, देन दे सेड कि जी इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी शुड नॉट बी जज्ड ऑन मॉरल ग्राउंड्स. इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी एक ऐसी एक्टिविटी है जिस पर आप मोरालिटी अप्लाई नहीं कर सकते. आप बाकी सब चीज़ों पर मोरालिटी अप्लाई कीजिए, इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी पर मोरालिटी अप्लाई नहीं कीजिए. अगेन गोइंग बैक टू योर सेकंड चैप्टर, वी सेड कि जी यू कैन नॉट एनीबडी कैन नॉट हैव टू सेट्स ऑफ मॉरल्स. ये थोड़ी होता है कि जी इस सिचुएशन के लिए मेरे ये मॉरल्स हैं और उस सिचुएशन के लिए मेरे वो सेट ऑफ मॉरल्स हैं. सिमिलरली ये भी नहीं हो सकता कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन या कॉर्पोरेशन ये कहे कि जी इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी के लिए हमारे ये सेट ऑफ मॉरल्स है, बाकी सारी एक्टिविटीज के लिए हमारे ये सेट ऑफ मॉरल्स हैं. दैट इज टोटली अनएक्सेप्टेबल. बट देन अगेन मेरी और आपकी अनएक्सेप्टेबिलिटी इस वक्त मैटर नहीं करती. एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम दैट्स व्हाट कॉर्पोरेशन सेड, दैट इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी वेयर बाय यू आर using resources to create products and services which you sell in the market for a price, that should not be judged by morality and moral standards and ethical standards. And then you need to realize the implication of that, because that would mean आप जो चीज़ प्रोड्यूस करेंगे वो आप जितनी भी प्राइस पर बेचना चाहें बेच दें. ऑल्दो अगर आप कंज्यूमर राइट्स की बात करें, उसमें एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट कंज्यूमर राइट ये है, द कंज्यूमर हैज द राइट टू हैव द प्रोडक्ट एट अ रीजनेबल प्राइस. लेकिन जब आप कहेंगे कि जी कोई मॉरल एक्टिविटी या कोई मॉरल स्टैंडर्ड्स आप इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी पर अप्लाई नहीं करते, उस केस में तो आप जितना भी प्रॉफिट मार्जिन लेना चाहें, 100%, 200%, 400%, इट वोंट रियली मैटर. सो पीपल स्टार्टेड थिंकिंग एट दैट टाइम कि जी द इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी शुड नॉट बी जज्ड ऑन एथिकल एंड मॉरल ग्राउंड्स. एज अ रिजल्ट ऑफ दैट थिंकिंग आपका नुकसान क्या हुआ? आपकी रिसोर्स एक्सप्लॉयटेशन हो गई. पीपल स्टार्टेड मेकिंग अ लॉट ऑफ मनी. रिसोर्सेज ज्यादा यूज करना शुरू हो गए, प्राइसेस ज्यादा बढ़ाना शुरू हो गए, क्वालिटी खराब होना शुरू हो गई, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. एंड आपकी बर्नआउट होना शुरू हो गए और रिसोर्स एक्सप्लॉयटेशन हो गई. और एंड रिजल्ट क्या हुआ? दैट the market again lost its stability. The human again became the type के जी again आप जब फिर आप इंडिविजुअलिज्म का सोचते हुए आपने इंडिविजुअलिज्म का सोचा और आपने सोसाइटी को इग्नोर कर दिया. आपने अपनी I mean कॉर्पोरेशन के गुड के बारे में सोचा, but you forgot about what the society needed. You thought as to how can you achieve your goal, but you ignored the betterment of the society. And that is how the entire circle was completed, from being good to being really, really bad to becoming good again and going back to being insensitive and not thinking about what people need and what people want. So that is how that is the way that your society has moved or has progressed with time. Good or bad के बीच में आपकी जो फाइट है वो कंटिन्यूसली चलती रहती है. और अब हम एक ऐसे टाइम पर आ गए जहां पर बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टेक होल्डर्स हम एक ऐसी पॉइंट पर पहुंच गए कि द स्टेक होल्डर्स आर एक्सर्टिंग सो मच ऑफ प्रेशर ऑन दीज कॉर्पोरेशंस. Why? ताकि the corporations start being good to the society again. So today things are not that bad. आपकी मार्केट इतनी अनस्टेबल नहीं है, आपकी सोसाइटी इतनी अंडर प्रिविलेज्ड नहीं है, आपकी सोसाइटी इतनी इनसिक्योर नहीं है. क्यों नहीं है आपकी सोसाइटी इनसिक्योर? बिकॉज ऑफ द स्टेक होल्डर्स. नाउ हु आर स्टेक होल्डर्स? अगर हम स्टेक होल्डर्स को डिफाइन करें तो हम उनको कैसे डिफाइन कर सकते हैं? नाउ स्टेक होल्डर्स, दीज आर द वेरियस डिफरेंट डेफिनेशंस दैट आई एम गोइंग टू give you, and they're given by various different people, names of which are there in your book. Now, one person said that stakeholders are a group who can affect or is affected by the organization's purpose. अगर आप मुझसे definition पूछें, the one that I teach regularly to my student is that stakeholder is, and it's not my definition, this is again something that I read in a book. Stakeholder is any individual, big or small, internal or external, which is affected by the company or who has any interest in the company. क्योंकि जब आपका किसी चीज में इंटरेस्ट होता है, it is only then that you are worried about if that thing is doing good or doing bad. Because when, for example, I'm very interested in what my family does, and since I'm interested in what my family does, I'm also interested in what my what are the activities my family gets involved in. If they're good activities, I say, okay, yes, we can go ahead with them. If they're bad activities, I say, no, we have to stop, we can't do this, because these bad activities are going to affect our family adversely, and if that happens, there might not be a family anymore. So because of the interest, आप automatically, जब आपका interest किसी चीज़ में होता है ना, तब फिर आप उस चीज़ की well-being के बारे में सोचते हो, आप उस चीज़ के अच्छे फ्यूचर के बारे में सोचते हो. एंड इफ यू हैव नो इंटरेस्ट इन समथिंग, देन ऑटोमेटिकली यू नॉट कंसर्न्ड, आपको कोई फर्क ही नहीं पड़ता. आप कुछ भी हो जाएगा, यू से इट्स नॉट माय, इट हैज नथिंग टू डू विद मी, हु केयर्स, व्हाई शुड आई इवन लुक एट इट, और व्हाई शुड आई इवन थिंक अबाउट इट. सो दैट इज व्हाट वी मीन व्हेन वी से कि जी आपको जो मैं डेफिनेशन इजी वाली देती हूँ अपने स्टूडेंट्स को, दैट इज people who have any interest in the company. That those people can be internal, those people can be external to the company. So that is the definition that I give to my students. But your book says that it is a group who can affect or is affected by the organization's purpose. So it could be any people who can affect the organization and who can get affected by the organization's purpose. यहाँ पर एक्शन क्यों नहीं है, पर्पस क्यों है? बिकॉज जो पर्पस होता है उसी के रेफरेंस से यू एक्ट. वट एवर पर्पस यू हैव इन योर माइंड, विद रेफरेंस टू दैट पर्पस you act and do things, and that is why it automatically means that people or groups who get affected by your purpose or who can affect your purpose are who are what we call as your stakeholders. Another person who said that stakeholders are people who benefits from or harmed by and whose rights are violated or respected by corporate action. So anybody who benefits from or can be harmed by and whose rights are violated or can be respected by corporation action. So those people who are those people who are directly affected by corporation, who can benefit from the corporation's actions, are your stakeholders. Who can be harmed from the corporation actions are your stakeholders. Similarly, whose rights are violated are your stakeholders, and whose rights are protected by the corporation actions are your stakeholders. For example, when you say that you need to build a factory, and what you're doing is that for building that factory, you build a factory, and the जो मटेरियल, वेस्ट मटेरियल आपकी फैक्ट्री प्रोड्यूस कर रही है, what you're doing is you're putting it in water, which in the lake or in the river which is near you. And when you're doing that, that river goes down and it goes in the village, and everybody in the village is drinking water from that river. Now your action, your corporate action of putting your waste in that river has harmed so many people. So that means that those many people who are the villagers who have been harmed by your action are your stakeholders. And similarly, their rights have been violated, because even under the Constitution they have the freedom to live, and they have the freedom to good air, and they have the right to drinking the good water and not contaminated water. So आपने क्या किया कि आपकी corporate action ने उनकी rights को भी violate किया. So anybody who gets affected positively or negatively by the corporate action and whose rights are either protected or harmed by the corporate actions are what we call as stakeholders. The last definition of stakeholder is people with the power to respond, negotiate and change the strategic future of the organization is what we call as stakeholders. So that means that especially जब आप for example pressure groups like Greenpeace की अगर हम बात करते हैं, right? I'm sure that you know what Greenpeace is. If you don't, Google it up. Greenpeace is an association which responds to various organizations' actions. It negotiates with them then, and then जो Greenpeace के actions होते हैं, activities होती हैं, वो corporation की thinking को change करती हैं, planning को change करती हैं, strategies को change करती हैं. As a result of which, organizations like pressure groups like Greenpeace automatically become stakeholders as well. So these are the various different definitions that one gets of stakeholders. आप जितनी भी books खोलेंगे, you will have multiple hundreds of definition of stakeholders. But simply stating stakeholder is any individual or a group of individuals which is affected by or which can affect you positively or negatively, or whose rights are violated or protected by corporations' actions, or who can respond, negotiate and change the strategic future of the corporation. Now, all these people, all those groups, all those communities, when they can do all these things, they are the ones who are called as your stakeholders. Now, this particular slide is giving you that perfect, complete, जो कि in all respect complete definition है. This is what it tells you. In simple terms, stakeholders can be defined as individuals or groups who either get advantage or are disadvantaged by corporate decisions or actions. So basically it could be an individual or it could be a group of individuals who benefit or who do not benefit from corporate actions, from corporate activities, or from corporate decisions as well. Now, the stakeholders have been classified in these four aspects. First up are your primary social stakeholders. They are your basic primary stakeholders. Who are they? Investors. Investors are your shareholders, people who give financial resources to the company, people who invest in the company. Your employees, including managers, your local communities, your suppliers, and your other business partners. Then you have your secondary social stakeholders. So, with respect, अगर differentiate हम करना चाहें कि primary social stakeholders और secondary social stakeholders में क्या है? So, if this is the corporation, then the people immediately next to the corporation are your primary social stakeholders, and your secondary social stakeholders then go a little bit outside, और वो आपके primary social stakeholders के बाद आएंगे. Now, they are your government and your regulators, your civic institutions, social pressure groups, media and academic commentators, trade bodies, and competition, your competitors. Then you have your primary non-social stakeholders. Now, who are your primary non-social stakeholders? They are your natural environment, your future generations, and your non-human species. And then you have your secondary non-social stakeholders, who are your environmental pressure groups and animal welfare organizations. So this gives you a very clear picture of what exactly stakeholders are, or maybe more specifically, who exactly are your stakeholders. Now, I'm going to explain this particular slide in much more detail, or I'm going to start my next lecture from taxonomy of stakeholders, and we're going to discuss the different types of stakeholders in much greater detail when we meet for the next lecture. But having said that, I would like you to understand that why is it important for you to know exactly who your stakeholders are, because in order for a corporation to fulfill the rights of every possible stakeholders, it is important कि आप उनको पहले जाने. If you don't know them, how can you ensure that you provide them with their rights? Or how can you ensure that the rights of your stakeholders are safeguarded? You have to know them first. So it is very important that you know exactly as to the stakeholders that your corporation has. And then with respect to the stakeholders, you find out ways to satisfy each one of them, keeping in mind कि आपने economic activity भी करनी है, keeping in mind that you're supposed to do your economic activity, but on the other hand, you're also supposed to ensure that your stakeholders are also happy and satisfied with the operation of your company. So what we're going to do is, with this particular slide, we're going to end our lecture. Now, before I say my goodbyes, my last goodbyes, I'm just going to do a quick recap. What we're doing in this lecture and in this chapter is that we're studying discussing the stakeholders theory, and we're basically studying this stakeholders theory with respect to KG stakeholders theory, corporate social responsibility के लिए बहुत important है. And what we're doing is we're basically studying, we discussed KG stakeholders कौन होते हैं, we discussed कौन से type के होते हैं, and then the very important thing, or maybe the most important thing that we have done in this chapter, is we've discussed how or why is it important for corporations to think about their stakeholders, and then we've discussed how the society has progressed over generations, whereby they started with being with living with harmony. Then with the Industrial Revolution and the talk of productivity and efficiency, the thing was because you only thought profitability and it did not think about humans. Then we came back to thinking about humans and taking care of individuals. However, that particular concept went into extreme और आप individualism के बारे में सोचना शुरू हो गए, and we thought that economic activity should not be combined or should not be judged on ethical grounds. And then again आपकी मार्केट जो है वो या आपकी सोसाइटी जो है वो अनस्टेबल हो गई और इनसिक्योर हो गई. फिर हमने बात की कि जब सोसाइटी इनसिक्योर हो गई है तो आज के दौर में इट इज़ मोर इम्पॉर्टेंट फॉर कॉर्पोरेशंस टू थिंक अबाउट स्टेकहोल्डर्स. We defined stakeholders in 3 different ways, and then we came up with this particular slide which specifically, clearly, to the point tells you exactly as to the different types of stakeholders the corporation can have. So with this, I'm going to end my lecture number 8 and not my chapter number 3. So till next time, Allah Hafiz.